My name is Sana, and the incident I am about to tell you is about the night of the moon, the night before Eid. A night that in our homes is considered a night of happiness, festivity, henna, bangles, new clothes, and anticipation. But for me, the name of the moon night is still associated with a cold fear, because it was on that very night that I first learned that some desires do not go toward the sky as prayers. The elders used to say that on the night of the moon, the door of every house opens not only for guests. Blessings also descend. Prayers are also accepted. But those who try to lift the veils of destiny through tricks on this night sometimes see those faces which humans are not permitted to see. This incident is many years old, but that night is still fresh in my mind as if it just passed before me. I was studying at the university at that time. At that age, everything seemed funny. Every fear seemed like an illusion, and every elder's advice seemed like old-fashioned caution that could be ignored. Our family was large. Aunts, cousins, the noise of children, the separate gathering of men, the separate courtyard of women, and the day before Eid, the house would already look like a fairground. That year, the moon night was being celebrated at my grandmother's old house, the same house that was the center of our family, where everyone gathered before Eid. Henna was applied, bangles arrived, vermicelli was roasted, and women stayed awake late into the night preparing for the next day. Grandmother was no longer alive, but her house was still called by her name. Even after she was gone, her fragrance remained in the walls of that house. The order of her hands in the kitchen, the plants she had planted in the courtyard, her old rosary in the room, and on the roof, that old earthen pot near which she used to sit and tell us stories on summer nights. Grandmother was a very pious woman, but at the same time she was strict about certain matters. Especially about the night of the moon, she had her own principles. She used to say, on the night of the moon, do not look at the moon in a cup of water. Do not speak your wishes in front of a mirror at night. Do not knock on a closed door with henna'd hands. And most of all, stay away from charms, games, and tricks meant to see one's fate. Because fate is not something to be seen, it is something to be endured. As children, these things seemed frightening to us, but as we grew older, we laughed at them. My cousin Zara especially made fun of such things. She would say that the women of our house had put a restriction on every happy occasion. Do not do this, do not do that, do not go at this time, do not touch that thing, do not ask that question. Zara was the most carefree among us. She was beautiful, talkative, and a little stubborn. That year, her engagement had been 6 months earlier, and on the night of the moon, all the girls in the house were teasing her, saying that by the next Eid, you will be in your in-law's house. Then you will not sit on the roof with us like this and apply henna. Zara would first feel shy, then laugh and say, first let me see if that is really written in my fate or someone else. She had said this sentence as a joke, but perhaps some sentences should not be said even in jest. The time was around 11:00 at night. Downstairs in the courtyard, women were applying henna. Some children were jingling their bangles. Someone was frying vermicelli. The smell of perfume came from somewhere, fried food from somewhere, and children were running through the house wearing new shoes. 5 of us girls, myself, Zara, Hina, Isha, and Nimra, came up to the roof because there was too much rush downstairs. A light, cool breeze was blowing on the roof. The sky was clear. The moon was faintly visible, and on the roofs of distant houses, laughter of girls, the smell of henna, the sound of bangles, and the noise of Eid preparations were spread. In this atmosphere, the thought of fear seemed strange, because the night of the moon itself is such a night in which everything feels good to a person. Old houses, old walls, the night, the wind, and even those roofs where on ordinary days a person would be afraid to go alone. Hina had brought an old notebook with her that she had found in a cupboard in grandmother's room. At first, we thought it might contain grandmother's recipes, a method for making sheer kurma, some medicine, some accounts. But when Hina opened it, inside were various prayers, tricks, old charms, lists of names, dates, and some strange symbols. Most of the things were ordinary prayers for a frightened child, verses to ward off the evil eye, a charm for blessings in the house. But in the middle, a few pages had red lines drawn across them by grandmother, as if she had crossed out certain things or forbidden anyone from reading them. On top of one page was written, "A ritual for the night of the moon. only for a woman who is in need and of pure intention. We all looked at each other. Then what usually happens at such an age happened. Curiosity always goes toward the thing that is forbidden. Zara took the notebook in her hand and said, laughing, "Let's see what is written in it. Perhaps a way to see one's fate." I immediately said, "Leave it. Let's go downstairs. If Mother sees it, she will scold us." But Henna made fun of my concern. She said, "Sana, you get scared of everything. These are things from grandmother's time. Which charm is going to bring anything now?" Aisha also agreed. Nimra was silent at first, then she also said, "Let's just read it and see. We won't actually do it." But the mischief had already entered Zara's eyes, the kind that comes before a wrong act. When a person knows inside that it is not right, but convinces themselves that there is no harm in just looking. The page said, "If a girl wants to know about her fate on the night of the moon, she should take a clean cup of water. Let the moonlight fall into it. Make an incomplete circle of henna on her right hand. Then look into the water and recite 3 times the sentence written below." The sentence was not entirely in Arabic or Persian. It was not even in Urdu. It was strange words, some like a prayer, some like names, some like someone had asked for something in the wrong tongue. Grandmother had drawn a red line through that very sentence and written clearly below, "Do not recite this." Reading this, a strange unease came into my heart. I tried to take the notebook from Zara, but she pulled her hand back. She said, "It's only this much. Just look into the water and you are supposed to see your future husband. Let's see if grandmother actually knew something or was just trying to scare us." I said, "Zara, joking is one thing, but grandmother herself wrote not to read it." She smiled and said, "If grandmother were alive, I would not read it. Now it's just paper." As soon as she said this sentence, the wind that had been blowing on the roof stopped completely for a moment. I felt it, but no one else did, or perhaps they did, but they did not acknowledge it. Henna brought a steel cup from downstairs. Nimra filled it with water. Aisha lit up the page with her mobile torch. Zara made a small circle of henna on her hennaed right hand, but the circle was incomplete, exactly as the page said. Even then, I found it strange. Why would any ritual require an incomplete circle? A circle is made for protection. An incomplete circle leaves a path open. Zara placed the cup in front of her. The faint light of the moon was falling on the water. All other sounds on the roof seemed to slowly fade away. Zara began to recite the words from the notebook. The first time she said them, she laughed. The second time, her voice involuntarily became softer. The third time, when she completed the sentence, the water in the cup became completely still, even though the wind was blowing. We all bent down to look into the water. At first, there was nothing. Just the faint line of the moon, our own blurry reflections, and the light from the roof. Then something like a shadow passed across the surface of the water. I thought perhaps a bird had flown overhead, but at this time of night. Then inside the water, a face began to form, first blurry, then a little clearer. We all held our breath. The smile on Zara's face changed first to surprise, then to an expression I can never forget. She wanted to look away from the cup, but her neck seemed frozen. It was not a man's face in the water. It was a woman. Not old, not young, just a woman whose age could not be determined. Her face was half visible as if she was looking up from beneath the water. Her hair was open. Her eyes were very deep and her lips were moving. But the voice did not come from inside the water, it came from behind us. Whose name should I write? We all jumped back at the same time. The cup overturned. Water spilled on the roof. Zara did not scream. She just went completely pale. Aisha dropped the notebook. Henna, who was always the bravest, immediately said, "Someone must have called from downstairs." But the voice had not come from downstairs. It had come from among us. Nimra started crying. I quickly picked up the notebook and closed the page. Aunt called from downstairs asking what happened, and we said, "Nothing." The cup fell. We all composed ourselves, but Zara was still staring at the spread water. In that water there was no moonlight. It looked black, as if ash had mixed into it. We went downstairs. No one told the elders anything. It was the night of the moon. The house was full of happiness, and perhaps we ourselves did not want to believe that anything wrong had happened. But when Zara tried to wash her hands, The incomplete henna circle on her right hand did not wash off. Instead, it became darker. First it was orange, then brown, and by the end of the night, almost black. The circle was not complete, but its two open edges seemed to be slowly spreading, exactly as if a path was opening. The next morning was Eid. In the house, prayers, embraces, Eid, vermicelli, guests, laughter, photographs. Everything was as usual, but Zara was silent. She kept hiding her hand under her dupatta. I asked her, "Did you have any dream last night?" She shook her head in denial, but her eyes said something else. After noon, when everyone was tired and resting, she came to me and said very softly, "Sana, last night when I was asleep, someone came close to my ear and said, 'You did not tell me your name, but you made the circle for me.'" A chill ran through my body. I said, "Let's tell someone." But she was afraid. She said, "If Mother finds out, my engagement will be ruined. Everyone will say I did something wrong. There will be a scandal." This is the problem in our homes. Sometimes girls stay silent not out of fear, but out of the fear of disgrace. I also supported her silence out of that same fear, and that was our second mistake. For the next 2 nights, Zara had strange dreams. She would say that in the dream, the same roof, the same cup, the same water, but instead of all of us, she is sitting alone. The woman's face does not appear in the water. Only a hand appears, reaching from inside the water to complete the henna circle on her hand. When she woke, a new part of the circle would have darkened. On the 3rd day, the circle was almost closed. Only a fine line remained open. When I looked at her hand, I clearly felt that this was no longer henna. It was as if a black mark was forming under the skin. That evening, Mother saw Zara's hand. At first, she thought the henna had gone bad. Then her face changed. She immediately asked, "Who made this?" We stayed silent. Mother asked again in a stern voice. Zara began to cry. When the whole matter came out, the silence that fell over the house was more terrifying than any scolding. Aunt held her head. Mother asked for the notebook. When she saw that page, her hands trembled. She said, "Why did you children open grandmother's notebook?" Henna said in a weak voice, "We were just joking." Mother glared at her and said, "Some things do not understand jokes." That night, for the first time, we understood the meaning of grandmother's words, that on the night of the moon, one should not try to see one's fate. Mother told us that many years ago, a woman in our family had also performed a similar ritual. She wanted to see her future husband's face before her wedding. The ritual was wrong. The words were incomplete. The intention was weak. And the face that appeared in the water was not human. After that woman changed. She would hear her name being called at night. She could not see herself in the mirror. And finally, just days before her wedding, she lost her mind. After that incident, grandmother had struck out that ritual, but perhaps she had not completely erased it. Because grandmother believed that something that had been written and then sealed should not be torn or burned without understanding, as that could also be dangerous. I asked, "What will happen now?" Mother looked at Zara's hand and said very softly, "As long as the circle is not complete, the path is not fully open. But if it closes, she will bind it with a name. The night after Eid was the longest night of our house. The 2nd day of Eid had ended. Guests had left. The festivity had faded. The same courtyard that on the moon night had been filled with lights and laughter was now silent. Mother had Zara sleep in her room. She recited prayers over her hand, applied blessed water to the open part of the circle, and strictly told us that no one would open any door until dawn. The circle on Zara's hand was almost complete. Only a fine, hair-thin gap remained. The black mark under her skin had not spread further, but it had not faded either. It sat there like a closed eye, waiting. Around 2:00 a.m. The first sound came. It was the voice of Aunt coming from the courtyard. "Zara, beta, give me some water." Aunt was sleeping in the room next to ours, and I had seen her asleep with my own eyes. Zara closed her eyes tightly. Mother held her hand. The voice came again, this time a little closer. "Zara, open the door, I need to talk to you." Henna started crying, but Mother gestured for her to stay silent. Then the voice changed. Now it was the voice of Zara's fiancé. "I am outside, just talk to me once." Zara's body began to tremble. I knew that this voice was her weakest point because she loved him very much. Mother whispered in her ear, "The one who loves you does not call your name in the dark and ask you to open the door." There was silence for a while. Then the voice came that froze all our blood. Grandmother's voice. "Zara, my child, why are you afraid? It's me." The voice was so real that for a moment tears came to my own eyes. The same gentleness, the same tone. Zara opened her eyes. Her lips moved as if she was about to say grandmother. Mother immediately put her hand over Zara's mouth. The voice outside let out a faint laugh, but it was not grandmother's laugh. It was the laugh of something that knew it had almost succeeded. Then water began to seep under the door. Clear water, but with a strange shimmer like moonlight, even though no moonlight was entering the room. The water crept slowly toward Zara's bed. The henna circle on her hand began to burn. Zara winced in pain but did not speak. Mother began reciting verses. The voices outside kept changing. Sometimes a child's voice, sometimes an old woman, sometimes my own voice. For a moment I heard myself say, "Zara, look at me. I am Sana." I was sitting right next to her. At that moment, I understood that the most terrifying thing was not that the dead could call you, it was that something could steal the voices of the living. Just before dawn, everything stopped. The water dried up. The voices ceased. Zara's circle had not closed completely. That fine gap remained. We thought perhaps the danger had passed, but some dangers do not pass. In the days that followed, caution ruled the house. Mother hid the notebook somewhere. Zara's hand slowly began to heal, but the mark of the circle did not completely disappear. Her engagement remained intact, but she was not the same. She spoke less. She became afraid of cups of water. She would flinch if she heard her name called at night, and at the mention of the moon night, she would leave the room. We buried the incident within the family. For outsiders, it was just a henna stain gone bad, or Eid fatigue, or some silly thing girls do. But we knew that we had woken something that night, and it had not gone back completely. Time passed. Zara got married. I became busy with my own life. For several years, nothing happened. I convinced myself that whatever was meant to happen had ended then. But last year, on the night of the moon, when my own daughter was insisting on applying henna for the first time, that same fear returned. We were in our own house. The atmosphere was happy. Children were laughing. Vermicelli was being made in the kitchen, and my daughter was insisting on going to the roof with her little cousins. I refused, but then I thought I would go with her. When we reached the roof, I saw that the girls had filled a cup with water. My daughter laughed and said, "Mummy, we are looking at the moon." I immediately picked up the cup. The others looked at me strangely. Perhaps they thought I was too strict, too old-fashioned. But being a mother teaches you that some restrictions are not imposed out of fear, they are imposed out of love. I threw away the water, turned the cup upside down, took my daughter's hand, and came downstairs. That night everyone slept, but I could not. Around 3:00 a.m., someone called my daughter's name very softly outside my room. The voice was my own. I sat up straight in bed. My daughter was sleeping next to me. I put my hand over her mouth, even though she was already asleep. The voice came again from outside, this time very soft, very sweet, exactly in my voice. "Beta, come outside. The moon is beautiful." I did not answer. I do not know if that thing is still following our family, or if every year on the moon night it looks into the water of some house. I only know that the night of the moon is certainly a night of wishes, but not every wish should be given a tongue. Not every game is just a game. Not every charm is a prayer. And not every reflection in water is your own. That is why, if ever on a moon night your cousins, friends, or daughters joke about looking at the moon in a cup of water to see their fate, do not let them laugh it off. The face that appears in the water may not be from the future. It may be something that is only waiting for a name. The night after I turned the cup upside down on the roof and brought my daughter downstairs, I did not sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed, watching my daughter's peaceful face, her small hand resting on the pillow, her lips slightly parted. She had no idea what had almost happened. She had no idea that a voice, my voice, had called her name from the darkness outside our door. I waited for the sound to return. It did not, but I knew that silence was not the same as safety. Some silences are only pauses. When the morning light finally came through the window, I felt a weight lift from my chest. I got up, performed my ablution, and prayed. I prayed longer than usual. I prayed for my daughter, for Zara, for all the girls in our family who might one day be tempted by curiosity on a moonlit night. Later that day, I called my mother. I had not told her about the voice on the roof or the cup of water, but when I heard her voice on the phone, I felt a lump in my throat. I said, "Amy, do you remember the night Zara made the circle?" There was a pause. Then she said, "I have never forgotten it. Why do you ask?" I told her everything, my daughter's insistence, the cup of water on the roof, and the voice that had called her name in the middle of the night. My mother listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was silent for a long time. Then she said, "You did the right thing by throwing away the water, but you must do something else." "What?" I asked. She said, "Take your daughter to the room where grandmother used to pray. Sit with her. Tell her the story not to scare her but to teach her, and then recite the verses of protection together." The old notebook is still with me. I have kept it wrapped in a clean cloth, hidden where no one can find it. But the thing that woke up that night did not go back into the notebook. It went somewhere else. And now it has found its way to your house. My heart sank. How do I get rid of it? My mother said, "You cannot get rid of something that was never fully invited in. The circle was never completed. The name was never given. That is why it keeps coming back, not to take, but to ask. It wants a name. It wants to be acknowledged. But if you never give it a name, it cannot stay." Then why did it call my daughter? "Because children are easier to reach," my mother said. "Their intentions are pure, so they do not know how to defend against what is impure. But you are her mother. Your prayers are her shield." That night, I took my daughter to the small room in our house that I used for prayer. She was 7 years old, too young to understand the full horror of what had happened, but old enough to sense that something was wrong. I sat her on my lap and told her a story, not the whole story, but enough. I told her about grandmother, about the moon night, about a circle that should never be completed, and about a voice that pretends to be someone it is not. She listened with wide eyes. When I finished, she whispered, "Mummy, is that why you took the cup away?" "Yes," I said. "Will the voice come again?" I hugged her tight. "Not if we pray, not if we remember that some doors should never be opened." We recited the verses together. Her small voice joined mine, and for the first time that day, I felt peace. The next morning, I called my mother again. I asked her what had happened to the old notebook. She said, "I burned it." I was shocked, "But you always said not to burn such things." She said, "I burned it with prayers. I recited the verses of protection over it, and I burned it in a clean place. The paper is gone, but the thing that was attached to it, I do not know. Zara still feels it sometimes. On moon nights, she calls me and says she heard a whisper, but she never answers. She never looks toward the window. She never opens the door." I thought about Zara, how she had changed, how she had become quieter, more cautious. Her marriage was happy, but she never celebrated the moon night again. She would sit in her room with her children, apply henna in silence, and go to bed early. She never told her husband why. Some burdens are carried alone. I decided to visit Zara. We had not seen each other in months. She lived in another city, but I took the train the following weekend. When I arrived, she was in her kitchen, preparing dinner. Her daughter, a girl of about 10, was sitting at the table, drawing. Zara looked older than her years, not in her face, but in her eyes. There was a tiredness there that never fully went away. We sat after the children were asleep. The house was quiet. I told her about my daughter and the cup on the roof. She listened without expression. When I finished, she lifted her right hand and showed me her palm. The henna circle was long gone, but in its place, faint and almost invisible, was a thin, dark line, like a scar that had never fully healed. "It never went away," she said. "The circle is closed now. It closed years ago. But whatever opened that night, it knows my name. It has never called me again, but sometimes I feel it. In the corner of a room, behind a door, at the edge of a mirror. It does not come close anymore, but it watches." I asked, "Have you ever told anyone?" She shook her head. "Who would believe me? They would say I am imagining things, or they would say I brought it upon myself. And they would be right. I did bring it upon myself. I was curious. I was arrogant. I thought grandmother's warnings were old wives' tales. I learned that they were not." She poured us both a cup of tea. The steam rose between us. Then she said something I have never forgotten. The worst part is not the fear. The worst part is knowing that something out there knows your name and wants you to acknowledge it. It is like a debt you never agreed to but somehow owe. And every time you think you have paid it, the interest appears again. I stayed with her for 2 days. On the second night, it was again the night of the moon, a year later, but the same date. Zara did not mention it. She did not prepare anything special. She put her children to bed early, and we sat in the living room with the lights on. She did not go near any window. She did not look at the moon. At around 11:00 p.m., the lights flickered once. Zara's hand tightened on the armrest. We both pretended not to notice. Then, from the direction of the kitchen, we heard a faint voice, so soft that it could have been wind. But it was not wind. It was a woman's voice, and it said, "Zara, I know you are awake." Zara did not answer. She closed her eyes and began to recite the verses under her breath. I joined her. The voice did not come again. After a few minutes, the lights stopped flickering. The house was still. I left the next morning. As I was packing my bag, Zara came to me and hugged me. She whispered in my ear, "Do not let your daughter make the same mistake, and do not let her go to the roof on the night of the moon, ever." I promised her. When I returned home, I took the small cup that we used for drinking water and I put it away in a cupboard where my daughter could not reach it. I replaced it with a steel glass that had no shine, no reflection. It was a small act, but it made me feel better. That year, on the night of the moon, I did not go to the roof. I did not let my daughter go either. We sat in the living room with the rest of the family. The women applied henna. The children ate sweets. The drums played. And when someone suggested that the young girls go up to the roof to see the moon, I said, "Not tonight. Stay here." They looked at me strangely. Some of the older aunts nodded as if they understood. The young girls giggled and stayed. Nothing happened that night. No whispers, no calls, no water seeping under doors. But I know that what we woke years ago is still out there. It is not a ghost or a demon in the way we imagine. It is something older, something that feeds on curiosity and the arrogance of youth. It does not need to be invited in. It only needs a door left slightly open, an incomplete circle, a cup of water under the moonlight, a name spoken without intention. I am telling this story now because every year, on the night of the moon, girls in homes across the country will sit on their roofs with cups of water and look for their future. Most of them will see nothing. Some will see their own reflection and laugh. But a very few, will see something else. And if they are lucky, they will turn away before it sees them. If you are reading this, please remember, some wishes are better left unspoken. Some games are not games. And some doors once opened cannot be closed. May God protect all our children, all our daughters, all our young girls who are curious about the future. May He give them the wisdom to wait, to pray, and to trust that what is written for them will come without tricks, without charms, without cups of water under the moon. And may He protect us from voices that know our names. If you liked this story, please like the video and leave a kind comment. Share it with the young girls in your family. It might save them from a mistake they cannot undo. Subscribe to the channel for more true stories of fear, faith, and the unseen. We will meet again, God willing, with another story.